Hi everyone, it's Dr. Tracy here, and this week you should have gotten the announcement that tells you this week in Game 1. So this week in Game 1 we're doing stages of development. We're also going to be starting a final project, but that's going to happen when I get all the votes in, which I have not got yet, and I've got to the end of this week. So let's look at stages of development. In this last chapter, in this current chapter, I do have a video about an indie project that's talking about the stage of development in video games. I've got a PowerPoint file that's associated with this chapter, and I have 3 articles for you to read that deal with this image right here. And this image talks about the stages of development. We start off with the concept, which is where we were in the previous project. Everybody came up with a concept, and that's where you're a game designer. That's called pre-production, because in pre-production, you haven't built the game yet. Even if you've built a level or a demo that goes associated with it, the game still isn't there. Part of pre-production comes design. And design is where you take a concept and you start fleshing it out a bit. So we are somewhere around this area on your game development as we speak. So the next step is to get into production. And production is where you start to involve artists and programmers and technical directors to implement the ideas that you laid out in the concept design. So this is the phase we're moving into for the remainder of the class. We're going to work on producing that game. And then finally it moves into post-production, which is where you have testers to find any smaller problems, and marketing and sales that's going to deploy the game. We aren't going to get there for this game. So in this chapter, it goes through these phases of the stages of development. So let's talk about these stages of development. The stages of development are where the developer side of the house and the publisher side of the house have conflicting goals about where they want to be. But basically the developer and the publisher both want to create a high quality best-selling game. But it is limited on the publisher side by the risk and the cost, and it is limited on the developer side by the number of resources they have and the budget they can spend. So in your stages developed, you can look into your text and read about the different stages. As that image showed, though, we have pre-production, production, and post-production states. And each time as you go through these stages, you have a vision for the game. What you just finished on your previous project had a vision for a game that you put into a concept document. And then as a group, you took a look at other concept documents until you chose one game that was the best concept and put it against the others in the class. Well, you can see that you're starting to narrow your focus as you go through. So as we're working on games, when we have these stages that are defined, we start off with broad concepts where they could be anything. And we start narrowing down that which we're going to focus on to build. So the game that is picked as the best game is going to be given to everybody to build for our next project as a final project. In the stages of game development, you start off with a concept, and you also need to build a team and have a plan based on an idea. So now I've built you a team, and your team has started to discuss that which you want to complete as your game. In the first few months, usually with your pre-production phase, which also includes a concept development and concept document, you create with a small team a playable level. So this is your goal that I want you to get to by December. Using a game engine and the concept document that you're given, you'll create a playable level or a game at AVI. And you'll also create a design document. The design document is kind of like the concept document, but it's a little bit more detailed because at this point, you will have a working game. Once you get to that point where you can demo your game and you have a design document, moving into production is the longest and most expensive stage. At the point where you're in production, which can take 2 years or more, you are going to be focusing in and narrowing down on the details. And the goal is to get to a place where you can now start working on quality assurance and alpha and making certain that everything works. So when you create a project plan, as you'll see by the chapters in the text, exercises 1, 2, 3, and 4, you create goals and deliverables, which are the things you're going to do along the way, and a schedule for completing them, and a budget, and it's constantly being revised. Well, the text talks about creating a project plan, but I want to talk more about Scrum. So coming back to our page on Canvas, I have a section here about Scrum. What is Scrum? Learn about Scrum, Scrum Guide, Daily Scrum, and Scrum is actually mentioned in the text as well. The main idea about this is rapid application development. When you use Scrum, you use little bits of the game that you know you can complete within the next meeting or the next day or the next week. And so you create these scrums, things that have to get done by certain time periods. I don't want you to focus next on what your team is going to do by December, though I will have some requirements. What I want you to focus on now is how to you get there little pieces by pieces. And so read this stuff. There is a discussion about what are these and how will your team use these ideas to incorporate into your teamwork. And very soon I'm going to be giving you that project that your team will work on. Okay, guys, I'll talk to you soon.